Scott, the MV2400R, what is it? What does the R mean?
So the R stands for revolutionary. It's the next model up from the S line. We have the 1200R and the 2400R machine. And the main differences between the R and the S is that we have adopted tubular drive system, magnetic propulsion, into the X, Y and the U and V axis. And we also have a fully enclosed four-sided table on the R machines.
What are the advantages of those upgrades?
So when we talk about the tubular drive system in the U and V axis, for example, we still maintain the positional accuracy even on the S line, but on the R system, when the customer's really trying to chase very, very high accuracy tapers, the resolution that we can get from that is supported and backed up with the glass scales that are fitted to the U and V axis.
Give me an example of that. Who would be chasing that accuracy?
So even multiple makers, their sliders, they call them up and aways, for example. These could be 15, 16 degrees, maybe over 150 millimeter high, and they're normally trying to get some very, very good accuracy. And some of the key features that are in the R system and the software actually calculate where the wire bow is taking place, because the pivot point will change as we increase the taper angle.
We've got some components here on the table. Have these all been done on the R?
Yes, they have. One of the key features from Mitsubishi is the fact that we always find that the taller the part or the more complex the part, the more holes that are in the part, steps, etc. That's where the Mitsubishi technology really comes into its own.
If we look at these components, Scott, what is it we're trying to illustrate?
So when we look at this particular part here, from an EDM operator's point of view, where he's got these kind of cutouts, tapered angles, changing cutting conditions, this really can become a bit of a nightmare when he starts to look at it. But the way the control system works with the Power Master, that's a standard feature on the Mitsubishi machine technology, this becomes a very easy job to do. But at the tail end of that, of course, there are always challenges with high accuracy. So then we might have high accuracy sliding component where there may be just 3 or 4 microns clearance is required between the part.
These parts are great, Scott, but obviously we've got to program these. How are we getting the data, the programs, into the control?
So on the side of the machine we have 2 USB ports, but we also have an Ethernet connection. So you can drag and drop maybe from a desktop PC those programs straight into the hard drive. Once they're in the hard drive, we have an onboard CAM system. We're able to import Parasolid, we call it 3D Power Master, where we can bring in a Parasolid, and the machine that will then actually see from that Parasolid maybe where the holes are or undercuts, etc. So it enables it to anticipate that cut before it proceeds. And that can be done either standing by the machine or remotely at a desktop system.
We've talked about this single piece casting. How important is that, and what advantages does it have?
So the single piece casting on the table, so on the R series we have a four-sided one-piece casting. It just gives the operator the ability to spread the load of his parts, maybe larger parts, but also put parts in corners, etc., to multi-load the machine tool.
And what is the capacity?
So the capacity, when we look about travel, is 600 by 400 by 310 under the head. On the 2400R machine, it's 1,500 kilo on the work table.
That's a big component, so how are we going to get it in?
One of the things that Mitsubishi always do is we always have a drop-down door system. So it means we haven't got a large swing-in door into the work area. These can be cumbersome, but the thing about having a swing door, it's actually quite a cheap construction, so it's a little bit swings and roundabouts for us. But we always find that a drop-down door style saves space, enables the operator very easy to gain access into the machine tool, and just gives him that little bit of extra security without making any mess on the floor.
And I've seen a lot of these chopper units on the Mitsubishi machines. Is that an option, or is it coming fitted?
Yeah, so the reason you perhaps ask that is you've seen some machines with a chopper unit at the back of the machine and some without. So all our machines in the MV series come standard with a chopper unit. It's not an optional extra. The reason why we like to show it sometimes with or without it is that chopper unit is basically a milling cutter at the back of the machine outside the influence of the working area. So it's accessible even if you're in mid-production, if you want to change the blade round. But it might be a Friday afternoon, 2 years down the line, and you've forgotten to order a spare blade. So you can simply rotate that out the way and then go free coil, and it won't inhibit any of your production.
How vast is the range?
So the range in the R series, we start with the 1200R, and then we have 2 models in the 2400R.
Okay, and can I ask you to conclude, who's going to buy it and why are they going to buy it?
Again, your general sort of subcontract shops, mould makers, etc. But I think medical perhaps, but people that are just looking for that little bit extra options and functionality that's within the control.